CDC recommends you wear a mask when you're in public.
Welcome to the Physical Preparedness Group YouTube channel. My name is Spencer. I'm a strength and conditioning coach, and over the years I've had the opportunity to work with a wide variety of athletes, all the way from competitive powerlifters to police officers to average everyday Joes who just want to be a little bit healthier. In this video, I want to talk about what the Physical Preparedness Group is and what kind of information you can look forward to in our future videos. In the past few years, the entire Western world has gone through some very dramatic changes, and it's gone through these changes very quickly. Some of these changes come from coronavirus, some of these changes have been a long time coming, but they seem to have all hit us at one time, and we seem to now be living in a new normal. We're seeing widespread and extremely blatant violations of constitutional and natural rights. Private industries and governments seem to be working together to try and reduce individual rights as much as possible and expand their powers as much as possible. As if that wasn't enough, the cult of identity politics that is taking over the West seems to be gaining more and more power by the day. Inflation, supply chain issues, failing infrastructure, it seems like everything is just falling apart at once. Many of the concerns voiced by the prepper community, the law enforcement community, the military community, the Second Amendment community that would have been laughed at 10 years ago are now being taken very seriously. We've seen a huge increase in firearms sales, food and water storage, medical supplies, and it's because millions of people are realizing that what we are doing is not sustainable and what we have is not stable. People are starting to realize that whether it's economically, socially, culturally, politically, we are headed towards the cliff's edge, and at some point we are going to reach that edge. What's good about this is that millions and millions of people all over the world are coming to the understanding that they need to be self-reliant and they need to be prepared for whatever lies ahead. There's a lot of awesome things going on in the preparedness community. People are buying food, they're buying ammo, they're finding like-minded people that they can make communities with and support each other. They're educating themselves, they're planning bug-out locations. But there's one gaping hole that I see time after time and case after case. And that gaping hole is physical fitness. There's a lot of factors that play into a person being able to survive worst case scenarios and being totally self-reliant. But one that seems to be almost completely neglected by a huge population of the prepper community is physical fitness. I want you to think for a second. How many weeks worth of food and water storage do you have? How many rounds of ammunition for your rifle do you have? Where is your bug out location at, and how far away is it? If you're like most preppers, you have a pretty good idea of the answer to all those questions. But do you know how fast you can run a mile? Do you know how fast you can run 3 miles? Are you even capable of running a mile? If you actually have to put that bug-out bag on your back and that rifle in your hands and walk 10 miles with it, could you do it without having a heart attack? Could you do it without injuring your knee or your ankle because you're so exhausted that you trip and fall? If a loved one is injured, do you have the strength to drag or carry them away from a dangerous situation? If a peaceful protest becomes not so peaceful, do you have the speed and endurance to be able to pick up one of your children and run 2 blocks with them to escape an exchange of gunfire? If you're attacked at a gas station, do you have the strength and endurance to fight and win against your attacker, or at the very least fight them off long enough to get to your concealed carry? These questions are much harder to answer than just, did we buy something? Do we have something sitting on a shelf somewhere? These questions about our physical capabilities are questions about our consistency, our willingness to work hard, our willingness to get uncomfortable in our training, and to continue to push ourselves so we can grow mentally and physically. There's 1,000 social media pages where you can see a guy flip a tire or punch a heavy bag. But none of these pages are going to teach you the underlying principles that make athletes in all sports successful. the principles that allow you to get better, stay injury-free, and overcome injuries and problems that you have now. I want the Physical Preparedness Group to be a resource for you to be able to take the principles that make athletes of all sports successful in their physical endeavors and take those principles into your own training, so that whether you're coming up off the couch or you're powerlifting, marathon running, black belt in jiu-jitsu, you can make progress, be injury-free, and become truly self-reliant. Don't let your physical fitness be a hole in your preparedness. Unlike some of the other aspects of preparedness, physical fitness and physical self-reliance is not something that can be purchased. It's something that has to be earned, and it's something that has to be grown. In future videos, we're going to be discussing general training principles that you can use to become the best everyday athlete you can be, and so that you can be as physically self-reliant as possible and be ready for any type of situation. Like most social media outlets, there's a lot of censoring going on YouTube right now. So on this channel, we'll mostly be discussing general training principles. We won't be getting into a lot of specific questions and having very in-depth conversations, partly to avoid censorship, but also because answering specific training questions is very difficult, and the answer I give one person might not be the answer I give another person, and is going to change based on individual needs and circumstance. If you find the information I have on Instagram or YouTube helpful, I would encourage you to check out my Patreon channel. On Patreon, we'll have regular question and answer sessions where you'll be able to ask me specific questions in the chat, and I can actually take the time to give you specific answers based on your circumstance. So I hope you join me. I hope you find the information helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.